I have quite tricky task because I'll try to present two different research simultaneously. And first of all, I start a bit from gender issues in Euromaidan. And as you see from, you could see, I don't know if you recognize, but they are Facebook self-made avatars where Facebook users could construct by themselves, both women and men, different multiple identities. And you could see from this diversity actually national, gender, professional, and other identities. And for me as a researcher, actually Euromaidan protests were a combination of these different identities, and I'll try to show this. Recent events in Ukraine, both Euromaidan protests and military conflict in the eastern part, brought definitely changes in women's lives. Women are among those who are vulnerable towards socio-economic challenges because they are majority of internally displaced people. They are those who are responsible for children, elderly, and disabled people. But at the same time, women managed to challenge traditional patriarchal gender roles, and from this perspective, I could say Euromaidan could be perceived as a so-called window of opportunity for women to criticize sexism and to have the ability to practice other more egalitarian roles. And as for me, and I have some articles on this. Euromaidan is the place where gender roles were reaffirmed, expressing gender-based stereotypes, but at the same time they were challenged, and women provide diverse scenarios of participation, and they really had the possibility to choose gender roles. And the diversity of traditional gender roles are connected a lot with so-called reproductive labor. Women are those who provide backstage of revolution, cooking, cleaning. They were those who have major roles as mothers or caregivers, those who's been entertaining and inspiring protesters. Also, they were victims, so-called victims during Euromaidan events, and in general in literature on gender and nationalism, one of the roles that women are supposed to play are so-called victims who's been under protection of heroic men. But at the same time, women criticized sexism openly, even from the large stage of Maidan, and they tried to organize so-called alternative groups, and one of these groups, they were in this discourse of militarism and heroization. For example, so-called official women's 100 or sotnyas as paramilitary organization of Maidan self-defense. For example, these 39 sotnyas that gathered, I think, around 150 women only from the first day of their emergence. There were some less paramilitary, but still other female units, as for example, Жіноча Чота of the 13th Sotnya of Maidan self-defense. Women used this paramilitary rhetoric and terminology to arrange alternative units. For example, Women Sotnya of Zaporizhia, that is very inclusive and doesn't use this military rhetoric and has both children and elderly. Also, Sisterhood Sotnya of Dnipropetrovsk, Dnipro now, who's been protesting on this, mainly for different aspects of human rights. Olga Kobylanska, female Sotnya, as more feminist unit, named by a Ukrainian writer. Women arranged so-called Night of Women's Solidarity, and they had Facebook group Half of Maidan, Women's Voice of Protest, to be visible also in online space. But at the same time, also some women from Maidan, they joined joined fights and volunteer battalions in anti-terrorist operation. And in this military sociology, American scholar Maddie Siegel, she pays attention to the factors of women's integration into army. Major factors are changes in the armed forces, the social structure of society women entered into public sphere, and also in culture, in cultural values where equality is perceived as criticism of patriarchal attitudes and stands more for egalitarian notions. Also in feminist rhetoric, there are debates between liberal feminists who would say that integration of women into military structures, it's obtaining full citizenship for women, and for more radical, critical feminists who would say that integration into masculine world, well, it's cooperation with hierarchical and sexist institutions. And I would like to present very, very briefly our project organized by and initiated as grassroots initiative by Maria Berlinska, who is Woman in Combat. And it's called Invisible Battalion, and it's sociological research on women's participation into military operations in NATO. Invisible because actually the role of women is less recognized, and battalion because due to the lack of different statistics. For example, official data from Ministry of Defense says that there are around 1,000 women in October 2015 participated in our ATO operations. And this research consists of both desk study and field study, and I will mention briefly results of in-depth semi-structured interviews with women from ATO. In general, when we look in the Ukrainian society on women's participation into armed forces, we could say that women are, but they are mainly on feminized so-called positions connected with nursing, finance, logistics, and communication. Women face gender discrimination and paternalism because in general in armed forces, as in civilian life, there is huge list of profession forbidden for women, and later, if you're interested, we could talk on this more. And our research is, it has different parts. It has publication of research results of field work that was done more than 1 year ago. And we interviewed 42 women aged between 20 and 47 years who were or are participating in fightings in ATO on that time. We look at 3 topics: legal aspects of participating in ATO, conditions of service, and behavioral and psychological aspects of their stay on the front. We provide our respondents anonymity, so the pictures that you would see, it doesn't correspond to our respondents. And actually we had also calendars. Some women, they later and now they are quite public figures, so they agreed to be pictured, and we produced calendars with pictures of those women and with quite, I would say, different citations from their interview. In our sample, only 2 women were officially employed. Most of them were volunteers in battalions like Red Sector, Aidar, Dnipro, and others. Half of those women, they were on combatant positions. Others, around 15, were on more medical positions, and others, they were on so-called service position. Law allows few military positions for women, so those who are like snipers or who drive a military vehicle, they are either registered on some other position, like, for example, director of sauna or accountant, or they are just volunteers. And it's like, for example, one of our respondents, she is a rocket operator, but by papers, she is accountant. And of course, it's problem of legal recognitions, and now those women fight for the recognition of their rights, and later, only, I think, around 15 of them, they managed to get status veteran of ATO. Also, women have some other infrastructural problems. They are not supplied with uniform, with footwear, with female products. Women, they face stereotypical attitude, quite protective and underestimative. I just put one citation, maybe quite radical, but I will read it well. There were some narcissistic penguins who believed that a woman has no place in the war to weak creatures. After that, I proved to them that those weak creatures are head and shoulders above them. So women constantly need to show that they could do the same that men do. Men have different attitudes, but actually when they see women who are in combatant positions near them, so they change their attitudes to more egalitarian. And this project, they became not only research, but more, I would say, like activist, because as grassroots initiative, our respondents, they fight for their recognition and against gender discrimination. And Ministry of Defense, as a result of this, not only this project, but also because of this, opened 63 staff positions for women. Actually, mainly those of our respondents, but also others. They signed Ukraine's side National Action Plan on Ukraine Security Council Resolution 1325, Women, Peace and Security. It's a resolution that says that women are not only victims of war, but they could participate actively as peacekeepers and also on decisional level. And we could say that currently women are fighting not only for horizontal but vertical empowerment, because there is also, I would say, strong vertical gender segregation where combatant women, they don't have the possibility to influence decision-making process and to hold quite high positions in military. Thanks a lot.